I don't know. I like pike poison. And on the other side of the table, blue-white, what Charles Gindy calls Geist Blade.
Yeah. Oh, and Liu Kai I recognize because he was from the Las Vegas Standard Open. He was the first guy to really break through with that blue-red Delver Stormkirk Noble deck. I believe he came in second in that tournament, so... This is a man who loves his Delver of Secrets, that's for sure.
He also appears to love some anime style.
Ridiculous cartoon characters.
And Lou.
Mulling a mulligan.
The lick and stick, that's old school terminology.
Yeah.
Haven't heard that one in a while. And we see a turn 1 Seachrome Coast Delver.
A big upgrade from Liu Kai's blue-red deck is that blue-white dual land right there. Dark Six Shores into a Ponder.
Fishy Ponder. The Ponder you apparently prefer, but...
yeah, as old as possible.
Zach Hall and I were definitely on the other side of the equation.
No accounting for taste, man.
3 Moon Ponder's where it's at. For all you altar artists out there, all 5 or 6 of you, it's a good it's a good card to draw some wolves on.
Yeah.
Untap Liu Kai looking for the flip. What's he gonna show? Anything?
Hooray!
Gitaxian Probe. If anything, I think that Delver of Secrets is the closest we have to Goblin Guide in the format.
It doesn't always work, though.
Neither does Goblin Guide. And we pay 2 life.
Yeah,
this is actually a free roll 2 life since his opponent is going to kill him with poison.
Right. So, a not very impressive hand, although he did not reshuffle off that Ponder, so there's probably some gas on top of the deck, but it's 5 lands, a Phyrexian Crusader, and a Blighted Agent. So he has a nice curve for the next couple of turns.
I bet you he had the curve in his opener and was like, I'll find something.
Yep. He didn't shuffle off his Ponder, so, I mean, that's got to be a cause for concern for Lou, the fact that there's probably two pieces of action on top of the deck. And Lou also has Mana Leak in his hand, so the question now is, are we going to use it here on the Blighted Agent, or are we going to pick a different spot?
Ponder pass.
Yeah.
Omar draws. Looks like another land?
I believe it's a Phyrexian Crusader. It can't be a land because he would have reshuffled off his Ponder if he was already floating out.
I didn't see what it was. I'll trust your keen eye. Second land. We're going to see a Blighted Agent here.
Yep. A nice little swirl here, I guess, to make Lou think that perhaps he has another 2-mana spell in his Met, maybe a Mana Leak. Trying to sell him on it.
We can see the different play styles here. Liu Kai might be an old school player. He's got his lands in front of his creatures, how a lot of the old players play. And Omar with creatures in front of lands.
I've never in my life seen someone land in front of creatures.
We played last night, and I had land in front of creatures.
Yeah, but you have all sorts of weird action going on, so I don't count that.
Blighted Agent comes in for a poison.
That's its own thing, man. And this is going to get leaked, I am almost certain.
Leak for the Crusader.
And I believe, if I saw his hand correctly, Lou has another leak to stop a potential...
Is that 2 Crusaders?
Yeah. They're a little slow for the way this game's playing out, though.
Yeah,
he's getting caught up in those leaks.
He's in a fast clock here.
Yeah.
And a Moorland Haunt adds its weight to the board.
So he has Midnight Haunting and Mana Leak, so just shipping with his mana up here and being able to react accordingly is...
Another Blighted Agent. Yeah, exactly. Lose in a good position.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry for cutting you off. In for one more poison. And down comes another Crusader. We're gonna see another leak here.
Yeah, the only decision.
Oh,
a
snappy leak.
Yeah,
That's an even better kind of leak.
Even worse. I was gonna say the only consideration here is if he wants to leak that or just cast Midnight Haunting, but Snapcaster into leak is a no-brainer.
Clear choice.
Yep.
The 4 mana mark is very dangerous when you're playing against a Delver deck because of that very play, Snapcaster into leak. It's almost like a little cryptic command that beats down.
Yeah.
Pike. Not a very good Pike, only 1 Ponder.
Yeah.
And he just gave away the ghost, I think, by shuffling that pawn to the top.
I'm going to go on a limb here and say it's not going to matter this game.
Let's see. Well, we don't know yet. Here's going to be a Crusader, and he's got 2 mana up. He's got what, land, Pike. Wow, leak on the Crusader.
That's lots of fun.
And he plays Omar. Omar Little about to die. Omar plays a.
Is that a dated wire reference?
Maybe so. We got another Blightsteel agent. Here. Tiago on in, along with Jeff Goldblum. Old friends, Tiago and Jeff.
Re-examines the Rune Catcher's Pike.
At 1 life, there's not much he can do here. He has to kill his opponent this turn, and that's 7 poison. He's only got access to 2 poison.
Yeah.
Only 1 instant or sorcery in the yard, I believe. That 1 Ponder. Pike? This is just information gathering, I think. Can you tell me anything else about the contents of your deck?
Right. It's a little. This is a little suspect because. Oh, Snapcaster League. That's lots of fun.
Black Sun Zenith for 2 would be awesome right now.
Yeah.
Does he have Black Sun Zenith?
He has 1.
Oh, he's got 1 Black Sun Zenith in his deck. Does he cast it? Does he have it?
No, he
Is
doesn't.
it there? What if it's there?
I'm really not a fan of casting the Pike there just because, I mean, I'm not the most looped in guy. I didn't really know that this deck was even a thing. And if I'm in Lewis' position, casting that Rune Catcher's Pike actually gives me
a lot of information.
ton of information about what's potentially going on in there.
Oh, N shows an unsummon.
Well, I don't know. He might have a running draw now, right?
Tap, tap, block, block. Oh, wow. Everybody dies?
Oh, never mind. He doesn't. I was going to say, if this allows him to survive combat, then what's it called? Forbidden Alchemy could potentially actually... Maybe there's some configuration that allows him to generate lethal.
Moorland Haunt is going to...
Yeah, he's dead now.
Be the doom. No cards in hand. Looking at it, it actually can rotate 360 degrees. You can still
wrap it
tell
up
what
box.
It is.
Where's the... Yeah,
there we go.
All right, so game 1 goes to Luke High.
Okay, so interesting cards. For those of you who have not seen the Poison Pike deck from Japan, as we said earlier, this is the deck that won the finals, which is basically the most prestigious Japanese tournament. They consider it more prestigious than their national championship tournament.
Yeah. That tournament is a big deal and has been for a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite moments as a deck designer is when one of my decks won the finals. I was like, yes, that's awesome, because I mean the Japanese players, they really care. You know,
yeah, they do.
They care about Magic, and it's really, really cool when you see some of the decks that come out of there. Like Ghazi Glare first got its break in the finals amongst other decks. Ghazi Glare, awesome mid-range control deck from about
Ravnica.
5-6 years ago now.
Whatever Ravnica block was, 2004, 2005.
Was it 6 or 7 years ago?
Dude, we are getting old.
Oh my god.
We are getting old, and we are getting older. That's how it goes.
So what Omar has as access to for sideboard, Curse of Death's holds number 1 and 2. Corrupted Conscience, I actually think could be reasonable in this matchup. There are not very many creatures from that style of deck.
I will say, it is it possibly has a spot. I will say, if I was in Omar's position, and this is where you had to like brush off the small sample size type of stuff. After getting leaked and Snapcaster leaked out of that game, I would be very apprehensive about bringing in 5-mana spells if it's not clear if they're going to be good or not. Corrupted Conscience is probably on the fence, especially if your opponent has. If you assume your opponent has Vapor Snags or Unsummons, it becomes much worse.
Absolutely. And also the issue of, at least if he's going to guess that this is in any way like a lot of the decks right now, at least Geist and maybe Geist plus Stalker as hex-proof responses.
Yeah.
I do think that you still bring in Curse.
Yeah,
Curse is still so
ace.
good.
Yeah.
And I do think that Black Sun Zenith, like he can get a lot of action out of Black Sun Zenith. One of the things that's cool about this deck is it can become very controlling.
Right, because you still have Nexuses to do the lifting for you, and then you can just lean on all your card drawing and your various Wrath of Gods and whatever -1/-1s. So what are we doing on the other side here?
Okay, so let's presume that Lou has seen the finals. Now, I've seen that list. I have not played against the list.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm aware of as the list, what it's capable of doing, is basically it plays sort of like a black-blue control deck that can just kill you in a swing.
Right.
And so what I kind of want to make sure I do is have answers to small creatures. So if there are, or for that matter, answers to equipment. So I like Divine Offering. I think Divine Offering, even though there are only the Rune Chanter's Pikes, and for that matter, I suppose Inkmoth Nexus, it as an instant can stop you from being killed out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Divine Offering is good. I think Ratchet Bomb is good because, again, they don't have very many. If you know the deck list, there are so few paths to victory for that deck that putting a Ratchet Bomb at 2 means you can immediately kill a Blighted Agent, kill a Rune Chanter's Pike, and if they drop a Crusader, up it and kill the Pike, or kill the Crusader.
I would just be a little worried about taking that angle, because if you think he's going to go into some sort of control deck and try to just kill you with Nexus and lock up all the other stuff, then Ratchet Bomb's just poorly suited for that.
That's a good point, and you would just want to bring in Negates then.
Right.
Bring in 2 Negates and leave it be.
Negates totally fine, and Offering maybe not, depending on if you have other cards that are suspect. Like if you know that he has Virulent Wound and potentially other stuff, then maybe you want to cut the target. Like Delver maybe is something you're less excited about having, but
yeah,
maybe that guy's just too good to cut. I don't know.
One of the things that's actually a very good point about where you are strategically related to your opponent, and if you are being an aggro control deck, you want to continue being an aggro control deck, because if your opponent's a control deck, that is your dream matchup. And in fact, there is no strategic matchup that is more in a archetype's favor than aggro control versus control. So shifting too far away from aggro control, becoming slower, that is probably a bad call.
Yeah, the disaster scenarios where you draw up these hands of like lands, maybe one guy and a bunch of reactive stuff, and you're just going to get overpowered because he has so much more card drawing and more powerful late game stuff. Like you still have to compress the length of the game, and you can't do that if you're bringing in too many cards that don't apply pressure.
Yeah, I think Omar on his side is going to remove the mana leaks and just become active. We'll see whether he keeps leaks in or not.
Oh yeah, leaks seems really bad against these blue-white decks for the most part. So. Especially when he has so much gas to bring in.
And we see a keep. I think there was a mulligan from Omar.
Yeah, I believe that's true.
Omar lays a Drowned Catacomb, I believe. And a Seachrome Coast from Liu Kai. That's an Inkmoth Nexus. Down comes Blighted Agent. Gut Shot from Liu. His life total is not in any way scary for him.
Yep.
There's no actual damage.
Yeah, all this stuff
that
is just
Omar can do.
Pure free rolls.
Pike from Liu.
Ratchet Bomb from Omar.
Omar is so happy to get a card like that down on the table.
Yeah.
Third mana, Liu lays a Geist. And then we got the Nightmare Scenario Geist plus equipment.
Omar just drew a black spell bomb.
You sure?
Yeah,
Wow.
because a snapcaster, I guess.
Okay. And plus, he can cycle it as card draw for a little bit of mana.
Yeah.
Main
The
phase.
downside is pretty low, and there's potential upside, so I think it's fine.
Main phase Forbidden Alchemy.
Yeah, he doesn't have a land drop this turn. I like that play. He had nothing else to do.
One of the things not to get caught up in is end of your turnitis. Just
Yep.
because you can do something at end of turn doesn't mean you have to.
Although he didn't play his land, which is a little bizarre.
Equips the pike. The pike is currently +1/+0 first strike.
What a deal.
That will get bigger really quickly. It's actually shocking how important that first strike is.
Yep. I mean, yeah, first strike's sort of at a high water mark now in standard just because, I mean, the metagame is as creature-oriented as the metagame's ever really been, and that's a keyword that is significant if you're just a bunch of dudes running into each other, you know?
Omar untaps,
Not sure what's going on with that Ratchet
pulls
Bomb.
forth his swamp. It might be just sitting back to be cleanup crew on Moorland Hunt, etc. And we're going to see, oh boy, that's going to get countered. Manleak stops the pro-white Phyrexian Crusader.
Which is now another counter for, or another point of power for the Pike. Just drew a Vapor Snag, I believe.
So now we're coming in for 8, putting Omar on a 2-turn clock. He might just make it coming in for 6 to make it a 3-turn clock. If he just sacrifices that Nile Spellbomb, he will have 3 turns rather than... And that's assuming, of course, that Lou does nothing, which
Right.
doing nothing is not to be expected.
I feel like you sort of just gotta take this hit and hope to rip Black Sun Zenith.
It depends how many cards Lou has. If Lou has any number of cards, then I completely agree.
Yeah, but he's not beating cards.
It's more about the question of can Lou make it a 2-turn clock still? Do you get no value out of sacking the Spellbomb? If he can't, then that I don't mind doing it. Like if Lou had 1 card, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Challenge at 3 o'clock is now open. Two-Head Giant Challenge registration at side events is $30 per team. That's $15 per player.
Seven life.
Yeah, and Lou's hand still got gas in it. I know he's got a Midnight Haunting, and
And it
things are
looks
looking
like
real bad for
Omar has pretty much nothing.
Yeah,
He's
he has
got
a Pike and lands.
Inkmoth Nexus. He's got, I believe, a Ratchet Bomb at 0, which can kill an Angel.
I assume that Pike's going to resolve because it does nothing.
I mean, Omar, I think, is basically putting it down there as a, what do I want to call it, a lightning rod for any counter spells that Lou has.
Yeah, he's just going to test the waters here, but he also has no other spells to cast, so I guess you might as well.
Says go. Out comes a Midnight Haunting, adding 3 power to the table if it resolves, 1 power if it doesn't.
So now I guess we're going to Ratchet Bomb to fog out of this turn. Or not actually fog, but just
Cool. Get it by another turn.
be not dead for one more turn.
In they come. Boom goes the bomb. Goodbye tokens. No angel, no spirit. Take 3, go to 4. Back in the position where he needs to do something. He can't actually make both of his ink moths into creatures, so...
Yeah.
Is that it? What do we have there?
That's a Virulent Wound, I believe.
Not exciting. It means he can survive this turn, I believe. He can lay a land, activate both Inkmoth to block the Geist, and then Virulent Wound the Angel to go to 1 and lose 3 cards.
And still have no...
Answer the Moorland Haunt.
Right.
Yeah, actually, so that he is drawing dead here.
Yeah.
That's all that needed to happen.
That should do her.
Even just activating the Moorland Haunt would have done it. Omar trying to find an out. There are none.
Right.
And he extends the hand.
All right.
Quick
so,
2-0 victory.
Yeah. Pretty straightforward, it looked like. Omar was never really in either game.
And, you know, I think just looking at Omar's list, one of the things that we didn't see happening at all, Omar actually has a fair amount of, removal that he can make use of. Unsummoned in game 1 is not great, but it does stem the bleeding. And then 4 Virulent Wound, that's actually fairly good as a very cheap removal spell for him.
Yeah, the issue is, and I mean, this is part of the power where a lot of the power level of the blue-white deck comes from. It's just, he has answers to every theoretically, but they line up in
Right.
very narrow fashion.
Right,
like,
totally.
Yes, Virulent Wound kills Delver on the first turn or a Snapcaster Mage. Yes, some of the counter spells and the Zeniths can handle the Intargetable guys, but you need to have A line up to his A and B line up
Yep.
to his B, and also be applying pressure yourself, because you don't have all day against Moorland Haunt and Midnight Hunting, all these things that give him some degree of inevitability. And his answers just never lined up for the threat cards in
Right.
the first place, so it was pretty straightforward games.
I think that one of the things that Omar is really, really banking on is being able to have a Curse of Death's Hold potentially hit the table.
Yeah.
Now, that's a hard card to hit the table when you don't have many other things demanding that they get countered.
Right, and just the, there's the, especially when the other decks have mana leaks and negates that they're siding into, it seems optimistic to think you can get that card to land without having other cards up the curve that also demand a response, and he never really had anything like that. Like, a lot of the decks just kind of spending its turns, just spinning its wheels, cantripping, and spending its mana that way, so they can just sit on leak or negate the whole time and cast it when you actually have your one big finish.
I mean, I think that one of the cards he has, in order to try to draw out counter magic, is Phyrexian Crusader.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, with the way that games can line up, right? He drops the Crusader, and it's 3 mana, so if his opponent wants, there can be a leak there to
Right.
stop it. And then when he gets to 5 mana, there's probably, unless he had another Crusader on the following turn, it's probable that his opponent has 4 mana, and then if there's a Snapcaster, then Snapcaster Leak stops it again.
Even Vapor Snags in these sequences are devastating for how the games are playing.
Yeah.
Even, like, the stuff you're describing is sort of the worst case scenario. There are several scenarios down the line that are nearly as bad.
Well, I mean, as a worst case scenario, though, right? How terrible is it if your worst case scenario is Mana Leak plus Snapcaster?
It's a horrible...
Like, worst case scenario.
It's a horrible place to be.
He has 2 cards he's probably playing, and
Right. Probably playing 4 copies of.
right.
If he draws either one of them individually, it's horrible. If he draws both, I'm definitely dead.
I think for those of you who are just joining us, what we're talking about right now is the match we just watched, where Omar Valencia playing the deck from the Japanese finals tournament, the champion of the most prestigious Japanese tournament, the Pike Poison deck, was just demolished by a virtual copy of Charles Gindy's